Hello. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Gabe Awards 2022. It is time at long last for everyone's favorite and totally original concept, which is called a thing where I talk about video games and talk about the video games that I played during the last year that was called 2022. Now, if you've never heard of the Gabe Awards before, allow me to do you a very brief explanation for how this year's show is going to function. I don't have any clips for you. I was going to gather some Twitch clips, and I really did not have the time. This week turned out to be a lot busier than I thought. This is an idea for next year, however. We will do the clips idea that I suggested. But instead, let's just talk a little bit about all the things that you're going to be experiencing during the Gabe Awards. Now, first things first, my name's Gabe. I don't know if you've ever met me before. Hello. Hi, welcome aboard there, everyone. This is going to be a long stream, essentially, of just me talking. In the latter half of the stream, we do have some Pokemon White version. But for now, let's talk about three separate categories. One is going to be the top 10 contenders for the games that I have streamed this year. I'm going to give you a bit of a forewarning. Most of the games that I streamed this year were Nintendo games that were a little bit older. There's actually very little crossover with releases that came out this year that I streamed. I actually played a lot of releases off stream. I actually did have enough for a top 10 this year for releases, but I decided two of those games I wasn't really super into the idea of honoring at an award kind of thing. So we're not going to do that. We're going to shun them, and we're just going to do a top 5, and we have some honorable mentions as well. And then also, new to this year's Gabe Awards, which last year was just called the year-end podcast or something, we also have a new category, which is going to be the soundtrack spotlight, where I discuss with you my favorite soundtracks. Now, this can come from releases. This can come from things that I did or did not play on stream. But things that I have heard throughout the year are on this list. Now, it's going to be top 10 for game of the stream, top 5 for releases. Soundtrack is unorganized because I don't necessarily think that I should be ranking those ones, but that's the gist of everything going. So let's begin with Game of the Stream 2022. Now, I don't know about you, but I actually, when you go to see the honorables later, which I'll show you after I show you number 1, there was a lot of really good games that I played for the first time this year. There's also a few games that I did some replays of, but our very first game of the stream is Donkey Kong Country. Now, I don't know about you, but I had actually never played the SNES Donkey Kong Country before. Now, this one was really tough to decide. I, at one point, had this one at number 7, but I really had to ask myself the question, okay, well, this game, do I like this more than this one? Yes, no, maybe. So this one kind of only barely made it into the list, but I'll tell you what, it's spoiler alert, Donkey Kong Country's gonna come up again when we talk about music. But, as for the game itself, I really actually enjoyed this one. I always thought that these games were going to be extremely difficult, like F-Zero levels of difficult. Also, what was that emote? Do you see that emote that like tried to enter the overlay? I seem to have misconfigured the emote walls for this. Sorry about that. It is called Hard Super Mario Brothers, though. That is true. I'll tell you what I really like about it. It actually has managed to like not age very poorly. Like, sure, there's some obvious things when you look at it on the SNES. I played through the SNES Online. When you look at it on there, I think some of the like 3D models that got turned into sprites look a little weird, but at the same time, it does still hold up rather well. So I really enjoyed this one. I might not have a ton to say about it, but this game really did earn itself as a classic. I'm also a big fan of the newer Donkey Kong games, being Returns and especially Tropical Freeze. So I would be ecstatic to see if I end up playing one of those games next year in 2023. So thank you. This was Donkey Kong Country. Next up, we have... Give me a second here. Sorry, I'm operating this music through a YouTube playlist because downloading it like wasn't working for me. So here we go. For number 8, or rather number 9, we have F-Zero X, which, you know, all right. This was the first time I ever played a real traditional F-Zero video game. And holy shit, did it really, really hook me. Like, this was a great introduction to the series. Hard as shit, I never actually ended up beating Master Mode in this one. Mostly because I think this game's difficulty ends up coming a little bit less from the races and learning the tracks themselves, and more from the rubber banding of the AI kind of becomes bullshit. And you're going to very consistently not win races unless you're doing the like high level, like ramming yourself into walls kind of strategies in order to accelerate yourself forward at like insane speeds and like flying and shit. This one will also come up again when we talk about music, I believe. But I just want to point out that the fact that they pulled off a soundtrack like this on the N64 is fucking phenomenal. All right? Like, not only do these like MIDIs sound just like really good, but just like I really am a fan of like the like hair metal aesthetic that everything is going for. Not just in the music too. Like the aesthetic of the game itself just screams, oh bro, that's metal. I just fucking murked that guy. He's dead now. He's gone from this reality. I have perished him from this universe. He's out of here. But N64 and GameCube, I agree with you, Spaghetti. Those games, those console generations always like hold up extremely well for me. And I was kind of surprised in myself that I had never really given F-Zero a try. But then again, you know, I know why. Sales of this series was never really that great, and I don't think the marketing for that was ever really all that great either. I don't know a single person in real life who's ever played F-Zero. Actually, that's not true. I do know one. But none of my friends growing up, I guess, had this. Also, that was a weird music loop that this song did. That's fine, though. F-Zero X was a great starting point. Really a big fan of the way that it does everything. I love the speed. I love the difficulty, even if it does drive me a little insane, which we'll talk about more later with a different video game. But overall, F-Zero X was a great way to get indoctrinated into the series. And the only other thing I have to say is, oh, too bad. You lost your goddamn life. All right, so for number 8, Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon. Now, this was a replay for me. Actually, I've played this game through like 4 or 5 times now. I'm a pretty big fan of the Luigi's Mansion series in general. Last year, I streamed the first game on 3DS, and then this year I streamed Dark Moon. Now, I'm going to give you a bit of a spoiler alert. Luigi's Mansion 3 didn't actually make the top 10. I ended up, weirdly enough, liking Dark Moon stream more than Luigi's Mansion 3, and I really liked that game. Luigi's Mansion 3, however, was a very close, almost beating out Donkey Kong Country for number 10. So it'll be mentioned in honorables for sure. But what can I say about Dark Moon that maybe gives it a weird edge? Even though I think 3 is definitely the better game, for me, when I replayed Dark Moon, it had been much, much longer since I had last played through the game. So a lot more of it, I think, felt like I didn't remember what was going on, whereas I kind of was predicting a lot of things that was happening when I streamed 3. But, you know, still, I really enjoyed that. Both games, really. For what it's worth, I do know that this is like the black sheep of the series. So for some people, this is like, how fucking dare I say that this maybe beat out Xenoblade 3? No. Luigi's Mansion. I don't even know why I'm thinking about Xenoblade right now. How dare I say that, right? But no, I think the mission structure on Dark Moon works to its favor in a lot of weird ways. And Dark Moon has kind of a better scare scraper. I agree, Froze. I feel like the multiplayer was just more fun. I think a big thing, it's a big thing, but it's also a little thing. Part of what makes Dark Moon's scare scraper work so well is tapping on the touchscreen over here and telling people to go to places. You kind of can't do that on the Switch, which kind of sucks a little bit, but you know, I think the game is great. I like its animation, its visual charm is great. I do think 3 in general does this game, like everything that this game does, it does better. But that said, weirdly enough, I think mostly just for the reason of 3 being more recent in my mind and this game not being more recent is why this one made the list and the other didn't. Otherwise, Luigi's Mansion 3 is a great fucking video game. You should play it. You should play this one too. It's good. All right. And now next up on the list. Sorry, we're going like Estoy Rapido here. I think last year I spent a lot of time talking about some of these games. Like, I think there was like one where I was like talking about it for like 15 minutes. We have to go through these a little bit faster this year, purely because of the new category, but it'll be all right. Next up, for number 7, is Kirby Superstar Ultra. Now, this one might come as a surprise. Kirby made the list. What? Well, it turns out Kirby's actually a very good game. This one in particular might be my second favorite Kirby game. I think out of nostalgia alone, it still doesn't beat out Kirby 64 for me, but you know, it's good. I really liked what this game did. I always thought when I was going to like try this game, I was gonna be like, is it really gonna be that fun to just like go between different like mini games and play through the game? The answer is yes. They really, really nail it with. I personally am a big fan of the Meta Knight's Revenge game mode. I think was very good. I could probably do without. What was it? The one with the treasure chests that got a large stage in Smash. I wasn't a huge fan of that one, but pretty much all of the others are great. I like Dynablade. I like what Ultra does as well, with like the masked DDD, which one that one was, like Revenge of the King or something. All of the Ultra additions to the game felt great. It didn't feel like it was tacked on just for the sake of being tacked on. It felt good to play, and I'm also a big fan of this game's. You know what? I want to give a special attention to this game's sprite work. I felt like it was very just charming to look at this game, and it's absolutely beautiful aesthetics, and I also like its power-ups. There was, thank you, chat, Revenge of the King, Meta Nightmare Ultra, and Helper to Hero, and then the True Arena. Meta Nightmare Ultra, help me out here, chat. You played as Meta Knight during that, right? During, like, the Meta Knight Revenge segments? That one was a lot of fun, too, if I'm remembering that correctly. Yes, okay. That wasn't a fever dream. Good. Good! I like being sane! Yes! I love being considered like a real human being. The Poyo was good. I really enjoyed my time with this game. Even if we don't hit that sub goal for True Arena, which might not happen, but that's okay. I'm sure there will be a time when on my own, I'm just gonna fucking say, you know what, I wanna do this anyways, because this game was that fucking good to me. You can play as Meta Knight through all the original games. Can you? Oh, yeah, that was what Meta Nightmare Ultra was. Yeah, you're right. It wasn't just Meta Knight's Revenge. It was all of the original Superstar games. Yeah, that was great. I really liked doing that. I've also really liked doing that because it removed the annoying part of Great Cave Offensive. So, honestly, this is definitely... I haven't really played the Super Nintendo version very much, but I would say that extra content that's in this version is worth it. So, if this is something you can have access to, it's worth your time. All right. So next up, first I will need to pause for just a second because it is hot as shit in this room. Anytime I talk too fast, it gets hot. So let me take off this jacket and let me turn on my fan real quick. All right. Fan is right there. All right. I've got my fans. All right. So next up for number 6 is Super Metroid. Now, hear me out. Somehow, despite it all, Gabe returned to play more Metroid this year. Now I forgot that I had played this as well, Froze, but then I was looking through all of my game thumbnails that I had, and I was like, oh shit, I did play Super Metroid this year. Now, originally I was gonna put Metroid Prime 3 here, but I really had to think, do I like Metroid Prime 3 more than Super Metroid? And while it might be a generic thing to say no, I think that gets to this game's credit. I had never played this game until this year. I had never, ever really played Super Metroid, which is blasphemy. I know. How could I live with myself not having played Super Metroid? Well, it's okay. We've rectified our mistakes. We played Super Metroid, and I enjoyed it so much that after I did my 4-part stream series, all in a single stream, I speedran the entire game and got the best ending on my second playthrough. So, yeah, I would say I really liked Super Metroid. I'm really interested this next year, in 2023, to play Castlevania, more like Symphony of the Night, or other Metroidvanias, because I will still play the remaining 2 2D Metroid games. Well, I also haven't streamed Dread, I guess, so there's 3 left. But we've finished the Prime series, so, I would like to play more Metroidvania. You're going to probably see 3 or 4 of those next year at the very minimum is what I'm predicting. But we'll see. So yeah, also special shout out to this game's Super Nintendo sprite work as well. This game actually holds up very well visually, and is like, when I think of like indie games trying to go for like the pixel art aesthetic, the very first thing I think about is Super Metroid. So fucking great boss designs, great power-ups, good exploration. Honestly, just a great fucking game. Excuse my my French or whatever here. Next up, number 5 for games that I have streamed this year. This one, depending on who you are, you might have forgotten that I also played. Metal Gear Solid, the Twin Snakes. Now, how did Twin Snakes beat out MGS2? What the hell? No. That's a good question. I really had to think about this one a lot. Which one did I prefer, Twin Snakes or MGS2? And I landed on this one for mostly its story itself, I would say. I do like the gameplay more of MGS2. Even though, like, these are very identical games as far as gameplay is concerned. Like, Twin Snakes is a version of MGS1 that came out after 2 and incorporated all of 2's mechanics, right? But weirdly enough, I found exploring Shadow Moses to be more fun to me than exploring the tanker or the, what was it called? The thing that you were playing as Raiden for? I also really like Snake, though, admittedly. I didn't find Raiden to be, like, annoying or anything, but I really do like Snake as a character, and obviously only half of MGS2 is really focused on Snake. The other half is Raiden. I did like how the end of MGS2 had the Skyward Sword HD sword controls for button controller. With the sword, the katana or whatever. I thought it was very fun. But I think overall I like the characters more in Twin Snakes. I think MGS2 kind of goes really like batshit insane at the end of the game. With like, I guess light spoilers, tune out for like 40 seconds, but like the AI kernel and just like, I don't really understand what like Ocelot was still really like doing with at the end of 2. So, you know, I think Twin Snakes was just slightly better of a game. Honestly, if I could, I would put these both at number 5. It's hard to really choose, but I figured for the sake of making the list not too much of the same, that I would only choose one for the list, and so we went for Twin Snakes. So, one thing I will say about Twin Snakes, though, that is maybe a little bit of a minus for it, is I do like MGS2's soundtrack a little bit more. I like the Twin Snakes soundtrack for the most part. It works, but I'm not super in love with it. I would love to play the original version of Metal Gear Solid, because that would have a fucking wonderful soundtrack, as a matter of fact. So anyways, we're up to number 4 now. Whoops, I just, hang on. Music is, it's very laggy operating a YouTube playlist for this music. All right, anyone want to take a guess as to what number 4 is? 3, 2, 1. It's Pikmin 3. Pikmin 3 Deluxe, specifically. So, I played Pikmin 3 and Pikmin 1 this year, and I would definitely, this one is without a doubt where I would put this. I would say Pikmin 3 is definitely the better of the 2 Pikmin games I've played. I haven't played 2. But I have a hunch that I'm still going to say Pikmin 3 is the best after I play 2. It's not a very long game at all. It's very fucking beautiful. It's like one of the best looking Switch games. Well, it's a Wii U game, actually. And then when Pikmin 4 comes out, whenever that will be, then that's going to be the best game of all time, basically. No other game will beat it. I think, for the record, if I like a game so much that I decide to dedicate one of my emotes to it, and it's not a Xenoblade emote, then that should speak volumes to how much I like the game. And we have a Pikmin emote in this chat, and it's a good one too. It's a frog, but it's a Bulba S. It's a good one. What else can I really say about this game, though? I actually really like the swapping of perspectives with the characters, which I think Pikmin 2 does as well. But like the multitasking you can do with like sending someone to point A to work on something, and then when they're there, you can then swap to them and have who you were just controlling start doing something. I honestly find Pikmin 1 to be slightly more cumbersome in that regard because there's not that captain switching mechanic. So I think, I still haven't played Pikmin 2 yet, but I have a feeling my ordering is going to be, as far as least to best, it's going to be in chronological order. 1, 2, and then 3. But we'll see. Maybe next year I'm going to be like, yo, fuck Pikmin 3! Fuck it! It's going to be Pikmin 2 all the way! They got the president in that game! Or maybe I'm completely wrong. We'll see. I also really like the rock Pikmin and the wing Pikmin. I think they were good additions to the video game that made me enjoy the video game even more. All right. Now we're up to our top 3. Now this one's going to be a little bit rough for you, chat. I'm sorry. But slot 3 goes to a game that is a little bit overrated. Bacon, egg, and cheese. But I'm going to explain myself here why this one is on the list. Give me a second. The YouTube is being very weird. Okay, unmute the video. There you go. All right, so for number 3 was Minecraft. So I streamed Minecraft with a bunch of my friends this year. Because the Wild update came out in like summer. Now, I actually am a pretty big fan of Minecraft. I play this game a lot. Not just with my friends, but like, I spend a lot of time with this game just like building shit because like I've got nothing better to do with my life, so I just make a big ass fucking castle and then blow shit up or something. And then with the Soggy Craft series that we did with my friends, I ended up creating a resource pack for everyone. And this was a big effort. It was also a data pack that Kenzie helped me out with. So we had, it was vanilla, but it still had some new features to it. So we replaced the sound effects on a lot of different things, like pufferfish went wah, and like spiders were like, God forbid I bite you, and skeletons were like boner and stuff like that. We were very funny. The Soggy pack made it really interesting, but what's gonna happen with Soggy Craft Season 2, which we're still working on behind the scenes, by the way, it's gonna be a little less focused on the memes. There will still be funny memes, haha. There might be an Among Us or two that you can see in the distance, but we're gonna really be focusing on like making it more into like a D&D kind of experience. I actually have a bunch of like lore and writing and stuff that's going into Season 2. So if not for that, Season 1 on its own was just a fun time where I don't often stream with other people, but this was really, really enjoyable. And also, Season 2 is like heavily modded. So there is that as well. So anyways, I normally play Minecraft creative mode myself. But this was like the first time in a while that I did an entirely survival playthrough. Aside from, I guess, the mod stuff with the data packs and stuff. But, you know, as far as the main stream itself was concerned, it was all us doing survival mode. So, I really enjoyed it. I know Minecraft itself is overrated. Some people just hear the name and just, like, projectile vomit everywhere. But I think it's one of my favorite games of all time just because of how much, you know, stuff I can do with it, and it's just a good game to relax with for me. Now, how about we talk about our number 2 game? Now, I want you to take a guess. I want you to take a good guess as to what could have possibly made it to number 2. We've only got 2 games left for the top 10 stream games. Slap the curb. I don't think it's curb. I don't think so. How about this? Megamix. How did Megamix beat out Rhythm Heaven Fever? What? What? This is fucking tyranny! I'm done with this shit! What the fuck? Rhythm Heaven Megamix is my number 2 game of the stream for this year. Now, I was really thinking about, do I like Megamix or Fever more? And you know what? I like Fever more, but I absolutely fucking despise Remix 10. Like, it actually is the reason why I'm selecting Megamix right now. If Fever did not have Remix 10, or if it was at least more tame, then we would be saying Fever. But let's talk about Rhythm Heaven, because I have not really done a lot of rhythm games in my day. I played a little bit of like Cadence of Hyrule. I've played Guitar Hero. They're not quite the same thing as Rhythm Heaven is. This series is like fucking phenomenal. And also, might I add that Bits and Bops demo that I played the other day. It's coming to Switch now, so fucking yo. But hey, I'm really into this series. I ended up picking up the DS game, so that's a game that we'll be streaming sometime next year. It's really fun to play through. It's maybe a little annoying to watch me try it again and again and again for superbs on every fucking challenge, but that's just how I gotta play it. I can't do perfects on all of them, but I think Rhythm Heaven is a really, really good franchise, and I want to see a new Rhythm Heaven just as much as I want to see a new F-Zero, and I mean that. So that should say a lot about how I feel about this game. And for what it's worth, you know, you can't go wrong with playing Megamix either. I know, like, a lot of people prefer the original versions of the games that are featured in Megamix. Some of them are made to be easier, and some people don't like that. But, you know, I want you to know that Rhythm Heaven is a really good franchise. I want you to know and respect it, and play it for yourself, please. All right, so there you go. There's your number 2. Now, you might be thinking, why? Oh, calendar is so rare. It's going to end up being my number 1 game of the stream. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to confirm to you that you're fucking wrong. It's F-Zero GX, come on. Now, we're talking about games that I streamed this year. I did stream Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, but you know, I'm pretty familiar with Xenoblade, and I talk about it enough. So why don't we talk about something a little cooler than Xenoblade? That's right. F-Zero made the list twice. This is the one exception that I made to that. F-Zero GX is my number one favorite racing game of all time now, without a fucking doubt. The game controls beautifully. I think X controls pretty okay, but F-Zero GX just controls so much better. The different camera things is so good, and I just love the courses themselves. The soundtrack is maybe a little less good than X to me, but I do really like this game's soundtrack as well. I think its aesthetic is a little all over the place in comparison to X as well, but I really do think that this is the best F-Zero game that I've played. I do have some minor complaints. I have, I wish that there was more content. 5 cups is not really a lot. After you practice and play through those cups, 5 cups you can get through in under 2 hours if you did all the cups, which that's standard for a racing game, I suppose. But also when you have games like Mario Kart 8, not even counting the DLC, but just the base game having 8 cups and then the 4 DLC cups in the Wii U, and then another 48 tracks being added through the Switch's DLC, that's gonna be fucking awesome. Right? If we were to ever receive an F-Zero game that were to have that. I also have one more complaint that has arisen as of yesterday with this game. Just not to shit on it, because I really do love this game. It has earned its number 1 position for me. But what I will say is I'm not super big into this game's multiplayer. I really hope that if we ever get another F-Zero game, that is a major focus of it. This game's multiplayer, I played this with 3 people, so myself and 2 others, just last night. And, well, for one, I've talked about before how there are there's only the 4 total racers, right? Instead of the 30. I think F-Zero with only 4 racers is kind of underwhelming. I really enjoy the chaos of having 30 racers on screen, but I suppose it must be some kind of technical reason why they can't do it. Because another thing that happens, and I didn't realize this the first time I played GX, but it might be because we had 3 people specifically. But when you play multiplayer with 3 people at least, some of the level geometry gets taken away. And then the tracks just become floating in the sky with no background details really at all, except for the skybox. It really must be some kind of technical limitation or something with the GameCube to keep it running at 60 FPS, which, you know what, for a racing game that is very important. But it's not the biggest deal. It does kind of ruin a little bit of the vibe, I think, for me, when there's no level geometry at all. It just kind of makes the courses feel a little less exciting. That said, this game's single player is fucking awesome. I love it. I don't love the fact that I had to waste my goddamn I shaved a year or 2 off my life because of me playing through that single player in order to get all of the characters. If I lose my save data, this memory card corrupts, that's it. I'm not doing that again. That was it was fine. It was a good tool to learn how to get better at the game, but certain missions really did just feel okay, this is too much. We didn't need to go this difficult with it, right? So, there you go. F-Zero GX is our number 1 game of the stream for this year. And I don't want to make this judgment too early, because I said a very similar thing when I played Xenoblade 3. And, now that what do you want to call it? The honeymoon phase of that game is like dying down for me for Xenoblade. I'm feeling a little less strong about it, but I will say F-Zero GX is probably a top 5 game of all time for me right now. That could easily change once, the high cools down, but, that's how I feel. So anyways, like I said at the beginning of this segment, there were a lot of games that were contenders for the list this year. In fact, I could have done a top 20. I had 10 more games that were possible runner-ups to be on this list, and these are the games that are here right now. All of these games at one point or another was on the list, but then I changed it into something else. So let's talk about our honorables very briefly for each of these. Wario Land, big fan of Wario Land 4. I had never played the original until this year, and Wario Land was fucking awesome as well. And Xenoblade, do I really need to tell you why I like Xenoblade and put it on this list? Xenoblade 3 is not on this list because it's on the next list. So this is all games that were old school games that I specifically wanted to put on the game of the stream category. Mario Kart DS, I also had Double Dash on there at one point. MGS2, Prime 3 was... I think Prime 2 is my favorite, but Prime 3 is my second favorite, and then Prime 1 is weirdly enough my least favorite Prime game, which I think is a little bit of an unpopular opinion from what I know, but, not that it really matters. Wario Land 4 is definitely one of my top 10 games of all time, though. I see people are talking about Wario Land right now. And yeah, it is. I've played through that game several times. Wario Land 4 is the only Wario Land. That and actually 3 are the ones that I've played a lot of times. Kid Icarus Uprising was really good. That is one of my top 20 games of all time as well, which I should have put on the list, but I really wanted to put a lot of focus mainly on games that I was playing for the first time this year. And you know what? Paper Mario, even though we're not done with it, this has been a really fun stream for me as well. Banjo-Kazooie, I played for the very first time this year. That's a good game. At some point, will probably stream Tui, especially if it comes to NSO. I don't care for some of the later half of Banjo-Kazooie. And I also wasn't playing with an N64 controller at the time, because I didn't have the Nintendo Switch Online N64 controller. And so a lot of the button mapping was a little weird for me, which I eventually learned, oh wait, I could have also been using the second analog stick to remap the C buttons, but even still, I find it a little weird to play through that game without actually using an N64 controller. So if you or a loved one is considering playing Banjo-Kazooie, I'm going to give you some advice and say, if you're doing the N64 version, I don't know what it plays like on an Xbox, but if you're doing that version, do yourself a favor and play with the N64 controller. I know a lot of people don't like that controller. I thought I didn't either, but Banjo and F-Zero X are games that especially well, they control better if you use an N64 controller, in my opinion. And then Majora's Mask I streamed this year too. That's, do I need to talk about that one? That one's like Xenoblade. It's my favorite game of all time. Majora's Mask I actually like more than Xenoblade. So, do I really need to say anything about it? I streamed it this year because it came to NSO, and it was a perfect excuse to play it. But there you go. Those are the top 10 games and 10 more honorable mentions for games of the stream. Now, let's talk about games that specifically came out this year. Now, when I'm talking about this Some of these games on here are not games that I necessarily streamed. You know what? I think actually all of them are this year. But last year I played some games off stream. I think that was on the list. At least I did a one-off, I think, for each of these. So, whoops, I accidentally closed that whole YouTube tab. I need to pull that back up. Hang on. You're going to get that music again. All right, so first one, you're going to hear the music. The music doesn't match with the game because the music that would match with the game would get me copyright stricken. So we're going to play some Mario Galaxy music, but it's not Mario Galaxy. Don't get your hopes up. That didn't come out this year. All right, so for number 5 was Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga. I actually played this game. Believe it or not, I did. And I'm a really big fan of the Lego Star Wars video games. I played the original trilogy and I guess the original trilogy was the prequels, and then the original trilogy, like original trilogy came out. And then there was the Wii version that combined the two. I played all 3 of those as a kid. And hey, you know what? Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga, even though I kind of skipped out on the sequels, I played all of the first 6 movies on here, and it was really good. I think I liked the originals a little bit more, but this is surprisingly, it's more of the same that you would come to expect with those, but it's also quite a bit different. Bet you didn't play the complete saga on DS. No, but I did play Lego Indiana Jones on DS. I also played it on Wii, so I had both versions. I used to be really into the Lego games though, and this one I did a one-off on stream, and ended up playing more off stream. But I like these games. I don't necessarily have a lot to say about them, but I think it's good. It's especially good if you play this multiplayer. I played this on Steam. I didn't have too many issues with that. I just played locally with my roommate and really enjoyed it. Also, like all the memes and references in some areas were a little bit overdone, but in a lot of other ways were kind of fucking awesome. So all right, there you go. That's Lego Star Wars. How about for number 4, we talk about... Hey, you guys like the color pink? Oh, shit. I forgot. Number 4 is Kirby and the Forgotten Land. No. I know. This game should probably be a little higher on the list. I thought about it. But then I thought more, and then I kept thinking, and then I forgot. But hey, Kirby and the Forgotten Land was a really enjoyable single playthrough that I did. I'm sure at some point I'll replay through that game, but I think the game did a great job bringing Kirby into the 3rd dimension. It plays wonderfully. It's not really too slow or too clunky. Maybe a little slow on the movement speed, but I don't mind. Overall, I would say it was a really enjoyable game that I maybe got slightly burnt out on by the end of it, weirdly enough. So I probably would have been fine to not 100% it, but I did end up doing that. I haven't gone back and done a replay of the game, so I'm not sure if I will ever replay this soon. I mean, I'm sure I will at some point, but right now I'm just kind of yeah, it was really good single time to play through the game. Chat says Kirby's not supposed to be fast except for the wheel. That is true. I'm not necessarily faulting the game for its design in that regard. I think for what Kirby goes for, it nails what it wants to do. And overall, I would say I really liked it. Its soundtrack doesn't quite hit some of the same highs as some other Kirby games do. It's still really good. This song in particular is very good. And there's a few others that stand out. But then there's a lot of songs. Like, I tried listening to the Forgotten Land soundtrack one time, and I remember walking away from it feeling like, wow, a lot of those songs were very similar. I don't always feel that about Kirby. So, it was still a very enjoyable stream. I really loved playing through this game. I streamed the whole thing, but also just in general, I played the whole thing. I guess there's less about the stream itself and more about the game, I suppose. And I think this game should have won more official awards. What did this game won something, right? This won Best Family Game at the Jeff Keighley Awards. I think it should have been nominated for a little bit more, though I don't quite know what. I just think that as far as like HAL and like Kirby, like this game was like just a very solid experience. There was like no real major issues that I had with it. At the fake Gamer Awards. That's right, it's not the Gaber Awards, it's the Gamer Awards. Alright, so that's kind of all I have to say about Kirby. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Forgotten Land is multiplayer, right? I did not play that game multiplayer if it was. I would be curious to see how I would feel about that game. I think it's 2 players, right? I'd be curious to see how I would feel about that game co-op. Anyways, on to our number 3 Gabe of the Year. Top 5 releases. Get ready for Bing Bang. Bing Bang. Bing Bing. Splatoon 3. I think this one also won an award at the Jeff Keighley Awards, right? So Splatoon. Weirdly enough, I'm like a mixed Splatoon fan. I played Splatoon 2 for 200 hours, like on my own. I streamed that game at one point. I played all of the single player, and then I played this game all the way through its single player as well. Bing, 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 bang. I also did the CBT final level in Splatoon 3, and it was fun. Weirdly enough, though, after I stopped streaming the single player, I have not actually once gone back to the game. I think it's more just because I got some other stuff going on. I would like to go back. I did miss the big run, which that kind of sucked. I did want to play it, but I was busy that weekend. I'm hoping that they do another one soon. But, you know, Splatoon 3 does everything that Splatoon 2 does, but a little bit better. My big complaint is I don't have enough kit options, and I need a little bit more map variety as well. I end up finding myself doing the same things over and over and over again, and that eventually kind of burnt me out. But for what it's worth, I really, really enjoyed my time with Splatoon 3. And I will go back to this game. I'm not like, no, I'm fucking done with this game. No, I'm just kind of playing other things right now, in all reality. But at some point, I will come back to Splatoon 3. And maybe even stream it. I don't know, probably play a little on my own as well. We'll see. But I liked this game. Also, its single player, let me just say, was very good. I think this game had the best single player for sure. The final boss was fucking amazing. A lot of the levels were really creative. It took the best parts of Octo Expansion, but didn't make it like too difficult, which was kind of a complaint I had with Octo Expansion. It's DLC in that game. You know, it's meant to be hard. That's what they're going for. But I liked the concept of it, but I liked the easierness of what they did with the single player in this one. Also, another minor complaint, but is also something I like. It's weird. I'm like halfway in between here on this one. Not sure how I feel about all the ranked game modes being like merged, as far as like their score. I kind of liked saying, well, I'm garbage at Clam Blitz, but look at me, I'm S+ in Rainmaker, because that was what it was. I was like C plus or something in Clam on Splatoon 2, and then like S plus on Rainmaker. And you know, hopefully we get more Salmon Run maps as well. That's another big thing for me, is I felt like there was only like 3 of them. But there's also more DLC coming to that game, so I'll be streaming this definitely whenever that comes out. So Splatoon 3 is not over for the stream necessarily, but I really did enjoy this game, and I think what matters most is its multiplayer is still very good. I do notice there's a lot more like connection issues as well. I don't know if maybe it's just my internet or not, but I see a lot more disconnects, which is weird because I thought this game was supposed to be running on Nintendo's new like internet infrastructure, but I guess not. I don't really know, or maybe it is, but it still needs some tweaking. I'm not so sure. Anyways, time for number 2. So I'm a Pokemon fan now, right? I didn't play the new one. I have not yet played Scarlet and Violet. I want to get Violet at some point in my life, but right now we are also streaming Pokemon Black. Or sorry, White is the version I'm playing. But you know, Pokemon Legends Arceus was a game that came out very early into the year, and I think I really, really like this one. I think this one might be my favorite Pokemon game. It's hard to say. Maybe I'll put Black and White back on top, because for a while that was what I was saying anyways, because that was the only real one that I had beaten for so many years. But I played through this game all on stream. I ended up actually completing the decks for this game too. I caught Arceus on stream, and I really liked this one. I ended up having to borrow like my roommate's copy of like Sword and Shield, so that way I could get like one of the Pokemon. But you know, I think this game is great. You know what? One thing I will say about this game, its graphics do be a little stinky. Hey, stinky! But I think this game's gameplay is what really shines for me. I like the fact that I can just throw Pokeballs at things and then it will work and I will catch them and I don't have to engage them in battle. I hear that that is not the case in Scarlet and Violet, and that makes me a little sad, but also I kind of understand what they're going for with Arceus specifically, because it's supposed to be like, oh, this is how we did it back in the old days, you know, before like Pokemon catching was more of like a refined process, I suppose. Fro says, we found something out about Scarlet and Violet. On top of the shiny dex and Pokedex, there's a motherfucking language dex. I don't know what that means, but thank you. You know what, one thing, this game didn't have any multiplayer though. Legends Arceus. I flip back and forth. I think it's Arceus. This game didn't have any like multiplayer aside from trading though. That kind of sucks a little bit. It just makes it be like, oh, you know, I'm building these Pokemon up to be so cool, and then I'm just not really doing much with them, I suppose. I've never played Diamond and Pearl, but from what I know of this game's soundtrack, a lot of it is remixes of that. I mean, this is a remix of Cynthia. I know that much at least. But this game's soundtrack is also fucking wonderful too. So just wanted to give special little attention to that, because I don't remember if I put this one in soundtrack spotlight. Pokedex now records when you have Pokemon from another region. If you have a Japanese Ditto, it will save that you've had one in the Dex. Oh. Yeah, I'm not gonna be doing anything like that in any more Pokemon games. This is probably the only game that I will ever, like, complete a Dex in, I think, personally speaking. I know my roommate and my other friend Wes, who's visiting us right now, I know they really like to complete the Dex. I think they completed the Pokedex in Violet and Scarlet. Both of them did. I don't think that's gonna be me, because I just don't have the patience for that. For like grinding like rare encounters and stuff like that. There was a little bit of that in Arceus, but not to like a huge degree. I think that it felt like annoying by any means. Also, weirdly enough, good, like not great, but good story for a Pokemon game. This one had. So, anyways, who's ready for the most predictable thing of the night? I think you are, because that's what's about to happen to you. Did anyone think that there would be anything else in this slot? Did anyone think that there would be anything else in this slot? Hey, let me tell you something. Is this a +1 for the counter on Gabe mentioning the Xenoblade soundtrack? Maybe. Hey, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is my favorite Xenoblade game, and probably one of my favorite games of all time. Like I said earlier, the honeymoon phase did die a little bit for me. I don't know if I would call this my favorite game of all time. You know, I really do like Majora's Mask, and there's a certain level of nostalgia to that will never be able to be topped. No matter how like objectively good or bad any other video game is, or that one in and of itself, I think Majora's Mask in and of itself just holds too much of a special place for me to not say that Majora's Mask is my favorite game. However, I would say this is definitely my number 2 if we take our biases aside. And I'm a really big fan of this game's soundtrack. This game's well, I said soundtrack out loud, but I was actually trying to say story. I didn't say that though. I meant to say story. I'm a really big fan of this game's story. There we go. This game actually sent me through some like emotional waves that I really wasn't expecting out of it. I did my best to avoid spoilers, but also there was a lot of big spoilers that ended up getting spoiled for me. And through that, the ending kind of was a little bit ruined, unfortunately, for my experience. But I've since like gone through and rewatched, and you know, I've seen the ending now and been less mad at it. And I'll say, I want to say that this is the best gameplay-wise of any Xenoblade game, like hands down. I don't think there's any part of me that doubts that. I could see people having their preferences on the story and maybe even the soundtrack, but I think for me, every aspect of this game is the best aspect out of a Xenoblade game. I think they learned a lot of their mistakes that they did in Xenoblade 2. They refined it. They made this a more hands-on video game as opposed to Xenoblade 1, which at time kind of felt a little boring because you're not doing a whole lot in the combat. Whereas Xenoblade 2 at times felt like there was too much. And while this doesn't necessarily remove too much, I weirdly enough feel like there's just like the UI, the presentation, and just in general, this feels less overwhelming. Maybe it's also my experience with this franchise that makes me think that way. I'm not too sure. But genuinely, this is a very beautiful game in more ways than just its graphics. And voice acting is off the charts. Is there really anything else that I can say that really hasn't been said by me already? There's a fucking bonk emote in this chat for a reason, because I can't stop talking about these video games. Xenoblade abstinence might be a New Year's resolution for next year, but I assure you, it's not gonna last very long. It really isn't. You can add a number equal to however many songs are in the soundtrack to the overall total. Well, I mean, yeah, definitely. I think, you know what? I'm gonna switch scenes here. What? How many times did I end? 326 times I mentioned the game's soundtrack when I was playing through that game. That's a lot of times. That's more times than there are songs in the soundtrack. So obviously sometimes the song came up twice and I was like, oh! And then I was like, oh! When it came up the second time. And I was like, oh! When it came up the third time. And those all counted towards that counter. But, you know, I really do think, at the very least, you know what? I won't deny that Majora's Mask has a special place in my heart and probably can never be topped as my favorite video game of all time. I will definitely say that Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is my favorite soundtrack of all time. There's no nostalgia bias there. Majora's Mask's soundtrack is good. It's fine. It's up there, but I wouldn't say it's like one of my favorites as much as I like Xenoblade. You want to guess the number of songs is 264? Let's figure it out. How many songs are in Xenoblade 3? 140 tracks are in Xenoblade 3, which is surprisingly low. But when you listen to all those in a row with one additional loop, so the song plays through twice, that's 11 hours of music, by the way. Like, actually, there is a playlist on YouTube or a single video that's like 11 hours and 24 minutes or some shit. That's a lot of fucking music, and it's all very good. So, thank you for taking some time to talk with me about Xenoblade Chronicles 3. This has been your official indoctrination. Now, anyone who was tired of hearing me talk about this game, you can unmute. Let's talk about our 3 honorable mentions for this year. I say 3 because, like I said, there could have been a top 10 this year, but I'm not giving any credit to Nintendo Switch Sports. And you know what? Mario Strikers did get better over time. I think that is a very similar boat for me to Nintendo Switch Sports. So, other than those 2 games, which aren't on the honorable mentions, those are on the dishonorable mentions. What do we say about these games? Now, one of them is technically not even a game. That's a real technicality right there. We'll talk about that one in a second, the very obvious not a game that's on this. But, let's talk about the Mario Kart 8 Booster Course Pass for a minute first. So I don't know if you know this or not, but Mario Kart 8 is an 8-year-old video game. Next year it will be 9. It came out in 2014. And then as of this last year, 2022, Nintendo decided, you know what? Let's do DLC for it again. And then they said, oh, by the way, we're gonna double the game's course roster. What? Yeah, we're just gonna do that. Now, most of these courses, in fact, like 99% of them are old courses. I think only through a technicality of it coming to the Booster Course Pass first, and then going to Mario Kart Tour, do we say that there are some courses here that were technically on the Booster Course first. But these are all like older tracks, so, you know, in some ways it's not necessarily new content. But Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is what I consider to be the best Mario Kart game. It's not my favorite. It is not my favorite Mario Kart game. That one's probably gonna go to either Mario Kart Wii, Double Dash, or DS. Probably actually DS. It's kind of how I've been feeling, because DS was the one that I was really thinking about putting on that list earlier. You know, I think just in general, whenever I ask my friends, hey, do you want to play Mario Kart? And Like, even if it wasn't like, oh, we're playing online, obviously we have to play 8. But if we were local, a lot of us would still probably choose 8 just because of how easy it is to get into. And, you know, for what it's worth, all of the course selections that are there are very good. This most recent wave of DLC had some of my favorite tracks added to the game. For some people don't like Peach Gardens, but then you get another +1 because you get Rainbow Road 3DS. Some people might not like Berlin Byways or whatever, but hey, you get London Loop. Some people might not like Rocky Mountain or whatever the fuck, Rock Mountain, but you get Boo Lake. All right, so there's something there for everyone. For me, really, I think this whole last wave, I don't personally have any gripes with any of the courses there. I like them all. Some things that I really want to see out of the remaining Booster Course Pass levels, definitely think we need some Airship Fortress. That's like the first and largest request from me personally. Follow up to that would be maybe Wario Coliseum from Double Dash. Love that level. I think they could do some great things with the anti-grav on that. What else? Those are the big ones that like stand out in my head, right? But then there's some other courses that are pretty cool. Like I would be down for like Shy Guy Bazaar from Mario Kart 7, maybe even Maka Woohoo or Woohoo Loop. I mean, they already have the assets for the Woohoo Island because of the battle map, so probably wouldn't be too hard to implement that, right? Yeah, in general, I would say this Mario Kart DLC is very good. Merry Mountain is there, which my friends always select, to my own dismay. Love you guys, but fuck Merry Mountain. But you know, I like the Mario Kart 8 DLC. I think it's coming out very, very nice, and I am always looking forward to the next wave. Kirby's Dream Buffet was a little bit of a video game that came out this year. Just a little one, you know how it is. It's just little video games. They drop sometimes. Sometimes you just get, oh, by the way, this is coming out next week. What? Yeah. This one I didn't really play any more than I streamed of it. So like 3 sessions. Maybe I booted it like 1 or 2 times that I'm forgetting about. But it's okay. I did play it this year, so I did want to give some attention to it. It's a nice game for the value of it being just like $15. I wouldn't necessarily recommend this if it was more expensive than that, but $15, okay. For a Nintendo game, which rarely ever doesn't really do games that are priced like that, okay, it's fine. Even though I think some other Kirby games, like side games like this, are actually just about that cheap too. Dream Buffet itself is pretty fun, but it doesn't have a ton of replay value. I think it was enjoyable for while it was there and like relevant, but I haven't admittedly had too much desire to go back. Maybe that'll change. Maybe there'll just be a random instance where my friends are like, what do you want to do? And I'm just like, Dream Buffet! And then they're like, yeah! And then we all play Dream Buffet for like 15 minutes. Or something, I don't know. But okay. So let's address the elephant in the room. That last one is not a video game. What is that? Why is there a picture of a Nintendo 64 controller? Hang on, let me get a drink first before I answer that question. Okay. Have you ever heard of the Nintendo 64? Alright, well, I'd like to conclude this segment. That is the reason why the N64 Online is being featured here, because they remembered what the N64 was. Last year, I was kind of disappointed a little bit by N64 Online, but as this year progressed, they actually ended up surprising me a lot with it. The emulator initially had a lot of weird like bugs in like Ocarina of Time. Mario Kart 64 didn't have fog in the Choco Mountain for some reason. Just little things that really didn't like break the game, but it was just there, and it could have been better. But over time, they improved the emulation of it. It's now extremely accurate to the N64 console, kind of to a fault. Now, in a positive light, it's extremely accurate to the N64, being a good thing in Majora's Mask, where there was one cutscene where the Wii Virtual Console version, and I think Wii U as well, was running too fast. And so the whole of the song wasn't able to play out during like that one cutscene because like the game just ran too well. Whereas on the N64, there was actually lag during that cutscene, just due to hardware limit issues. And the N64 Online emulator for Majora's Mask replicates that lag and refixes that cutscene, I suppose. So that's good. But then there's like an instance in like Paper Mario where we had a couple weeks ago where I was fighting the Fire Piranha Plant boss, and then there was a lag in that boss fight, and it fucked me up, bro. Like, I couldn't get my inputs in because they were just, like, the game was just too much lag. I don't know what was going on with that, but, you know, it is just an emulator at the end of the day. But I would like to say it's still not super worth the price if you're just going solo. But if you're doing a family plan and everyone is, like, equally pitching in to your Switch Online membership, I think it's a lot more worth it to go for this, especially because you know, as it happens, N64 has a lot of very good games on it. They just added the first two Mario Parties, which, alright, let's not talk about Mario Party 1, but Mario Party 2 is phenomenal. You got F-Zero X, you've got both of the N64 Zelda games, Banjo's on there. 007 is coming at some point. I don't know when. Do we know when the next N64 game is? I feel like it's been like over a month since Mario Party dropped, and that was the most recent N64 game, right? Not too sure. But I wanted to mention this here because while I was disappointed by it last year, I think this year I've definitely come around on the N64 online service. And I'll say that if you're doing the family plan, yeah, it's worth it now. It's good. All right, so that was rather extensive talking about these honorable mentions. Why don't we move on to the next segment of the Gabe Awards, the final segment here. No, this is going to be a little bit different. This is the soundtrack spotlight. It's going to be a little less of me gushing. I have some songs here for you that I will be playing in the background, some of which I'll have to loop because they're only 1 minute and 52 seconds. But I'll play you the song. You get to listen to it for a little bit. And I want to talk to you about why I like these games' soundtrack. And I'm going to get into a little bit more of like music theory reasons. So if that doesn't interest you, I'm going to say a bunch of jargon that might not make a whole lot of sense. And I'm also still learning my music theory stuff. So it also might not make sense if you know your music theory shit, because you're like, what the fuck is this guy talking about when he's saying a G7 chord when that's clearly a G9 or whatever? I don't fucking know. Let's talk about the first one. Come on. Come on. It didn't appear on the list. It was in the honorable mentions. We gotta talk about Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. Oh, I guess, by the way, Soundtrack Spotlight is not limited to games that came out this year. These are games that I played on my stream or off stream, but I think all of the games on this that I ended up selecting for this were games that I did stream at some point or other. But let's talk about this. Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition is a video game for your Nintendo Switch home console. It features a fully remade soundtrack by Yatsunori Mitsuda, Ace Plus, and other composers that I can't remember their names, unfortunately, right now. But, hey, let me tell you something. What they did with this soundtrack was they took a soundtrack that was using a bunch of synthesizer instruments initially, not real instruments. They were all, I don't want to say midis, because the midis is kind of almost like an insulting term to use when you're referring to music. Not necessarily. There's good midis out there, but it's samples, right? Not real instruments. Whereas Xenoblade DE decided we're gonna actually use real instruments for this whole soundtrack, and they fucking killed it. Obviously, Definitive Edition also comes with like the Fog Beast theme that you're hearing now, which is fucking awesome, might I add. I can't boost this anymore, can I? No, that's fine. I'm really into Xenoblade's music in particular, though. I don't think that comes as a surprise to anyone, but it uses a lot of mixed variety in its instrument. It's not just butt rock, it's not just jazz, it's butt jazz, and it's great. It also does some like funk fusion. It does at times. It'll do. There's like a heavy metal song as well. Like the soundtrack itself is very varied. But overall, yeah, I think Froze has it about right. Jazz rock is probably a good way to describe it. As jazz, yeah, as jazz. I feel like that's like a art in and of itself. As jazz. Overall, I think I prefer the Definitive Edition soundtrack. I know some people prefer the originals. That might be a nostalgia thing or just a general preference, but some songs got just some slight verse changes, and like they moved around the notes a little bit. In Engage the Enemy, the vocalist there hits a very impressive high note that just like every time I hear it, like it actually gives me goosebumps. I'm not exaggerating that. It is so impressive, and it's definitely not auto-tuned. I could hear that shit if it was. Yeah, overall, Xenoblade soundtrack is unsurprisingly very, very good. So, there you go. Now let's talk about the next game, which is not playing the music. There it goes. I told you it'd be back. Donkey Kong Country. Also, by the way, this whole this section of the soundtrack spotlight is not necessarily ordered in any specific way. So, like, I'm not saying that Xenoblade is my number 10 and this is my number 9. I wanted to pick out some songs and show you them. But when it came to Donkey Kong Country, that was a very, very hard task. I mean, that's kind of the thing with a lot of these games, actually. But this one especially. I think this one stands out to me as it's not something I really heard a lot of. I was very familiar with the Donkey Kong Country soundtrack before having already played these games. I'll say that this was one that I really hadn't heard until I played the game on my stream. It's called Fear Factory. It's the level, like the second to last world. Or I guess technically it's the last world because Gangplank Galleon really is just the one boss level. Ooh, banana. But I think Aquatic Ambience has been one of my favorite songs to fall asleep to for years. And finally having heard it in the context of the game was beautiful. Gangplank Galleon is a great song. I'm a huge fan of the Ace Plus remix that's in Smash Brothers. No, not just because it's done by the Xenoblade composers. I assure you, it's just good on its own. And I think in general, this, other than like Super Metroid, I think this might be my favorite SNES soundtrack. It's a tough call right now between this and Super Metroid. Spoiler alert, actually, I don't actually have any Super Metroid on this soundtrack spotlight for you. So I guess technically through that subconscious decision, that I would maybe say this is the favorite, but it's hard to say. They're both very good. I like this. I am looking forward to playing more Super Nintendo games because so many of them I missed out on, and I am just a huge fan of what the SNES sounds like. So I think that's pretty solid in and of itself that I can say. What is this? I got a message from Froze. Oh, he sent me the Donkey Kong Pog. All right, so thank you. That was Fear Factory. Also, you know what? I do want to give some special attention to the main Donkey Kong Country theme, Jungle Hijinks as well. That is a very solid song as well. All right, so this one I have to loop because it's kind of a short song. But how about we talk about Rhythm Heaven again? Hey, you ever heard of Rhythm Heaven before? It's a game. It's for the Wii, Rhythm Heaven Fever. It had people where you press a button to the beat of the music, and there were things that you did. And there's lyrics to this song. This song is not Persona 5, I promise! The song is very good. This is easily my favorite out of the Rhythm Heaven Fever soundtrack, by the way. But hey, I think it's kind of obvious that a rhythm game should have good rhythm music, but that isn't technically always the case. Harmonide. But hey, this one is fucking phenomenal. I loved the soundtrack to Fever. I think out of all the mini games that I played out of Mega Mix, you know, calling Mega Mix the best soundtrack is kind of like a cop-out because it's like saying that the best of the Beatles is the best soundtrack the Beatles put out. Like, obviously, but we're talking about, like, soundtracks individually here, right? And I think out of what I've heard, granted I haven't actually heard too much of the whole of the other two games that I have yet to play, Fever's soundtrack has really stood out to me, and actually I've taken a lot of time to re-listen to this game's soundtrack as well. I like the way a lot of the remixes were pulled off, and I think just in general, like the vibe of the soundtrack really works with me. Why did you pick it if you insist it's not Persona 5? Well, you see, Persona 5 is a video game that is also good, but I didn't stream that this year, so, you know. I don't really have a lot more to say that I really haven't said because I've already given a lot of praise to Rhythm Heaven during those streams, but if anyone here is a music aficionado, let me just tell you, if you have not taken the plunge to play any of these games, fucking do it. Also, this game has multiplayer that I've still yet to play. I'll get back to you one day about that, but for now, MIA. I still think that this vocalist sounds like identical to the vocalist from Xenoblade X, even though it's not. So this one might come as a surprise to you. The next song that I have on my list here. You want to take a good guess? I'll give you a hint. Banjo-Kazooie. Grant Kirkhope is genuinely one of the funniest people that I know. Well, I don't know him, but I have heard of him before. But let me just say, I am a huge fan of his work. I haven't played a ton of games where he's been the composer of, but weirdly enough, I've always been, like, familiar with Grant Kirkhope. Like, he has a strong presence with YouTuber musicians. Like, he's played the, I think he's played, was it with Family Jewels that he did, like, a cover of the main theme with, like, heavy rock? I think so. But yeah, Grant Kirkhope's soundtrack is definitely up there, and I think Banjo-Kazooie in and of itself really shines with its playfulness in its music. It doesn't always go to be like when I listen to Xenoblade music, a lot of the times I'm listening to like the battle music because I need like something to like work out to or something. Banjo-Kazooie is a soundtrack that just fits perfectly with the game. It is a video game soundtrack through and through. It is so fun. It is so playful. And just like right now, listen to what that like xylophone MIDI is doing. Those arpeggios. Like, it's just so fun. While like if you like play the game and you match this up with some like actual gameplay footage of Banjo-Kazooie, you'll notice that like Banjo's walk cycle is like at the exact same pace as those arpeggios. It's just like fun little things like that that makes this soundtrack just so delightful. Rusty Bucket Bay is a area that gives me absolute pain and makes me want to gouge my eyes out. However, even the music there is still very fun to play through. And even though I hated looking for those last 4 notes in Click Clockwood, you know what? The song there is also very good. I would be curious to see how I feel about other Grant Kirkhope games. Donkey Kong Country 64, I've heard a little bit of the music of. I think I would enjoy those if I decided to play through that one. Banjo-Tooie, I would probably like the soundtrack. There's also the Mario Rabbids, that is true. I've heard a little bit of Mario Rabbids music, and it's good as well. I'm not sure what my next Grant Kirkhope experience will be, but this is up there. This is definitely a good one for me. All right, so thank you, Banjo. Your g and your h was very good for me today. Now let's talk about another game that was in the honorable mentions for Game of the Stream, but didn't quite make the top 10 list because I had an opportunity to talk about it here. Kid Icarus Uprising. Sorry to keep you waiting. So, boy, this song, Lightning Battle, for one, is a great fucking song. But the whole of this game's soundtrack is so fucking good. Oh my goodness, is this game's soundtrack good. I think it's all live orchestra and instruments. There might be some like sampling happening here, but overall, this game's soundtrack is so surprising, and the game is surprisingly like it's made by the developer of Super Smash Brothers. I'm sure you all know that. That's like the Mario 2 is actually Doki Doki Panic of trivia, right? Like everyone fucking knows. You don't have to say it, but you know. For being a Sakurai developed game, I think that this game is a little bit underrated. I think it's sold fairly well, all things considered. But you know, I just want to say, I don't actually know who this game's primary composer is. You know what? Actually, I think this will probably show me on this YouTube video. No, it doesn't. Never mind. This soundtrack is just off the charts. I also considered doing the Aurum theme, not the flight segment, but the actual level theme for the first Aurum level. That one probably did some sampling with it, but I really like the jazz that one goes for. You like jazz? Well, I do. I do like jazz, B-movie. Thank you. I also like when Kid Icarus says the funny lines and Hades goes, spoiler alert, kind of like this. It was a little quiet, but I assure you, he said the words just like I said he would. Dark Pit is also a very good song. Honestly, there's so many songs that I could have thrown on here for this one. This one was just kind of like a spur of the moment decision. Even though like Veridi theme is very good, I like the Lightning Chariot temple. So many good songs. Whenever Sakurai, I don't know if in that one YouTube video that he made when he was like joking about Kid Icarus Uprising, and he was like, someone should either remake this game or like make a new one. Or I don't remember what he said. He said something along the lines of, I think, like porting the game. It's like, someone should really do that. You're right, Sakurai. And also, while you're at it, make another one. Make another one. I need to hear more of floor ice cream and not learning how to read. And I need to hear more about the guy, whatever his name was, that gave you the ultimate chariot at the end of the game, or whatever the fuck, and Thanatos, which is Thanos, but like Thanatos. We need more. That's what I need. That's what I need to say. Okay. All right. Thank you. Kid Icarus Uprising, fucking phenomenal soundtrack. Dionysus, thank you. That was his name. All right. So, we talked a little bit about this game's soundtrack earlier. Let's talk about it some more. It's time for a Grammy. Kirby Superstar Ultra has, I think, my favorite Kirby soundtrack out of all of the games. I will say that Kirby 64 still kind of has that nostalgic value for me that is going to be tough to beat. I don't think that one's like Majora's Mask necessarily and can't be beat. But this game didn't quite like get on top of Kirby 64 for me in a gameplay level, but it did for a soundtrack. And come on, you got Meta Knight's Revenge in there. You've got Masked DDD in there. You've got, you know what? For what it's worth, even some parts of the Great Cave Offensive music is really fucking solid. The menu music is very solid. All of this game's soundtrack is phenomenal. Seriously, Kirby in and of itself has like its own like genre of music to me. Like whenever I hear like extremely like fast, like listen to the percussion, listen to how fast everything is happening in this song. Galactonite, yeah, that one too. Marx's theme. There's so many good ones out of this one. Listen to that, those arpeggios and the speed that they're hitting. That is like such a Kirby thing to have. Is like kinda slow, relaxing gameplay, but then the music is just going off the fucking charts. And it's beautiful. It honestly works so well for these Kirby games. I can't even think. I can't even think straight. I'm just listening to this, and I'm like, oh boy, I love me some Kirby. And that motif. Oh, the motif that they use in this game. I really am a big fan of that motif. Your personal favorite is Returns to Dreamland. I will be curious to see where I feel about that when I play the remake that comes out. That comes out in what, January or is it February? That's like soonish, right? I haven't seen like any marketing for it aside from the reveal trailer. Comes out in February. Okay, so that's probably why. Still a little bit of a ways away. But I'm really looking forward to that. I'm hoping that my friends Tony, Fish, and Ellie will still be down to stream that game. Because I know we like very briefly discussed that, but that was a long time ago. Oh, you know what? I crossfaded the music, but I got another Kirby question, so we'll bring it back out. Did you ever play Kirby Air Ride? Yes! I love Kirby Air Ride. I've not streamed that game, because admittedly, there's not a ton to do in Air Ride. It's like a one-off game, and then you've seen it all. But yeah, I own Air Ride. I have it physically. I love that game a lot, too. City Trial is obviously very good. I'm not super big fan of Top Ride. I don't think that's an unpopular opinion. And I do like the Air Ride mode, but again, it gets old kind of quickly. City Trial in and of itself is like infinitely replayable if you have the right friends. But the other ones don't last you a ton of time as far as content is concerned. But I'm a big fan of Air Ride, and some of this game's, well, the original version, I suppose. Some of that game's music appears as like cameo tracks. But anyways, so it's time to play you my favorite song in any video game ever. You ready for this? No, I'm just kidding. It's not that one. I'm not gonna fucking play that. I'm so fucking sick of hearing that Chain Attack song. All right. That is a big complaint I have with Xenoblade 3, is I'm not super into the Chain Attack theme interrupting fucking everything. But, okay, Tactical Action, otherwise known as the tutorial theme. Fucking listen to this thing? This is one of the first soundtrack songs you ever hear? You have to stop watching the streams just because of the song. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You could also mute every time I do a chain attack. I actually stopped, genuinely, because of that chain attack, I stopped using chain attacks in the game, though. Like, I really did. Up until the very end of the game, I stopped using chain attacks as a mechanic altogether, because I was so fucking sick of hearing it. I really hope that gets adjusted in a patch. But anyways, the song itself is not bad. It's just, fuck, you hear that, like, for like more than 50% of the gameplay, like actually statistic, as long as you're doing combat like that frequently, you will hear it like that much. I've already mentioned how Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is my favorite soundtrack of all time. And so this is just another excuse for me to gush about it for 40 more seconds. This battle theme also gets remixed later in the game. I won't spoil when. But when that happens, when I heard that, I like fucking like creamed like on the spot. Like that was like a Christmas miracle bundled up in a nice little like present that was like, here, I'm giving this to you, and also I'm gonna give you 6 more of the same thing. And you're not gonna know what to do with yourself. As for Tactical Action, you know, this is a great battle theme itself. It's hard to choose a favorite song. This is probably not my favorite. My favorite's probably Weight of Life, which we already played earlier. But there's so many good themes. I really like a lot of the overworld music as well. Again, not just the combat themes. The combat themes is what I mostly listen to when I re-listen to these soundtracks. But a lot of the area themes, Aegis Wilderness, the Erythia Sea is a great theme as well. I'm a big fan of Milik Meadows. Lots of great area themes in this game. Good ass fucking soundtrack. All right, so we'll make that as much as I talk about with this one. Next one. All right, so this one I haven't even finished the game. I've only streamed it once. I was going to stream it again yesterday, but I decided not to. But it deserves a spotlight here, just because it's that good. Celeste. Lena Raine is one of my favorite composers. Like, actually, I'm a really big fan of her music. Fro says they do not like this game at all. I'm so far a pretty big fan of the game itself, but this is more talking about the soundtrack, I suppose. And I want to say Lena Raine's music is seriously some fucking jaw-dropping stuff. I'm actually going to skip ahead a little bit in this song. It has a little bit of a slow start, but then when it gets going, then it gets going. Is this the part where it does it? Yep. I love this game's soundtrack so much. I still haven't heard all of it because I haven't beaten this game. But I think Lena Raine has done a fabulous job with not just this game, but all of their other works as well. I believe they've worked on Omori. They work with Minecraft now as well. There's some other games as well. I think Chicory, Lena Raine helped compose with. overall, this is probably like my favorite, other than like Toby Fox. Lena Raine is probably my favorite indie composer, I would say. I might even like Lena Raine a little more. Not that it's like a competition of being number one or anything, but I really do enjoy this game's soundtrack. I like the way she does instrumentation. I like the way she does arpeggios. Like, listen to the piano at this part of the song. It's just pleasant to listen to for me. But as seeing how I haven't completed this game, and I was intending to have at least had more to talk about today, because I had it scheduled for a stream yesterday, but I didn't end up doing it. Sorry. I don't have a ton more to say about this one in particular, but I know that Celeste's music is really, really good. So this next song is actually a song that you never heard on this stream, unless actually I might have pulled it up in a YouTube video. But in the vanilla game itself, you did not hear this song because it was actually added to the song through an expansion pack called the Nintendo 64 DD, which, didn't release here. So, how about Rainbow Road? Rainbow Road from F-Zero X is probably my favorite song in the F-Zero X soundtrack. Weirdly enough, it's not even an F-Zero song. How did it do that? Well, nostalgia for one. But also, the F-Zero X soundtrack is very solid. I have talked a lot about my opinions on the Guitar Arrange album. I like Decide in Your Eyes. I like, Climb Up and Get Your Last Chance. Big Blue is not Decide in Your Eyes. Decide in Your Eyes is Mute City. I don't remember the name of Big Blue's song, but Big Blue is also like my general favorite F-Zero song. Devil's Call in Your Heart. That one's okay. I'm not super into the just because I'm not super big into like the heavy metal. But I like the way the instruments sound. I guess it's more just the vocalists that I'm not super into, and that's less because, like, I see that they have a lot of talent, and I have a lot of respect for that, but I also hear that, and I'm like, fuck, your throat must suck. You must have so much vocal pain doing that. So, like, hats off to people who do that kind of music. It's not necessarily my type of music. I also have a hard time understanding what they're saying in the F-Zero soundtrack when there are lyrics. Like the Car Select theme, I have no idea what the guy is talking about. That's not how that works. They train their throats for that. That's true. You can do that. It is a muscle and it can be worked out. It's just for me, as the person who has not trained my voice for that, I know how much it sucks to try to do it without the proper training. But even still, it does affect you. If you've ever heard, it's not metal, but without using the proper vocal techniques, I don't know if you've ever heard like Brian Johnson from AC/DC talk, but that dude sounds fucked up when he talks. Maybe I'm overthinking things and I'm just hearing things that might not be there. But I think even with the proper vocal training, you're probably doing at least something to it. That said, this is not me slighting it in any kind of way or intentionally trying to do that. I have nothing but respect for people who can do it. It's just, it sounds like it hurts. I think the bigger thing for me is I really just don't understand what they're saying. If I did, I might have a different opinion. But also, F-Zero GX did a lot of vocal songs that were just kind of weird too. Like, I like the Captain Falcon theme, but it is So it's like 10% cring, all right? It's like I know some people look at like the Sonic the Hedgehog soundtracks around that time, and then they say, oh, that's cring. Well, you know, I think that the F-Zero GX soundtrack is like even more cringo, a little bit when they do, he will be my hero and stuff like that. But anyways, F-Zero X's soundtrack is really good, despite my shit talking here. It really is. I really like the sound of like the guitars and like the double kick drums in metal music. It's just for some reason I have a weird, it's not even a problem, but just a weird thing with vocals in metal music. But that's just a personal preference. If you like that stuff, please do not let my opinion change that from you. You are more than welcome, and I implore you to continue enjoying it. All right, so this last one is going to really come out of left field. I'm willing to bet that you had no idea that this game was going to even appear in today's show. Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness. Huh. So I didn't even finish this game when I streamed it. I played it for like, what, 15 hours? BRB, your stomach is hurting. Oh, yeah, true. This was the game that originated the EV Pain emote, though. This is the second GameCube Pokemon game. So the sequel to Pokemon Coliseum, which I didn't even know it was a sequel to Coliseum, because there is no branding anywhere in this logo that says anything about Pokemon Coliseum. So I actually played a sequel game that kind of expected you to play the first game, but I didn't play the first game. So a lot of the story didn't make any fucking sense, which is probably part of the reason why I didn't finish the game, admittedly. Maybe one day in my time I might go back and finish this game. But one thing that I really, really remember about this game is that its soundtrack stood out to me, not necessarily for what it songs do, but just because of the samples. And for a like 2004, 2005 video game, this is all, I think, if this is samples, this is some really clean stuff. Like, I was really convinced that this whole game's soundtrack was live instrument. And you know what? Even though I didn't finish the game, I think its soundtrack deserves a lot of praise. There's also the cowboy song. Hang on. Let me get you the Pokemon Gale of Darkness Wild Battle theme. Let me get this for you. Here you go. Here you go. Wild Pokemon Battle. Why do they got the cowboys coming out for the Pokemon? He cowboy! Oh, yee! For the record, this game's soundtrack is not like all like Western and like cowboys. It's just those two songs kind of work. But, you know, I did want to give a special spotlight to this game's soundtrack. I haven't actually taken the time to listen to all of it because I'm not fully unconvinced that I won't listen to more of it on my own. Yeah, I think this game's soundtrack is very good, and that's kind of really all I have to say about it right there. So there you go. That is the soundtrack spotlight. I wish I could talk. That would be wonderful if I could. And here are my honorable mentions for this year's soundtrack. You're currently listening to Jubilife Village from Pokemon Legends Arceus, by the way. But there were a lot of really good soundtracks this year. Splatoon 3's music, you know what? I'll say Splatoon 1 and 2's music is kind of in a lot of ways what I would describe to be very weird music that if other people heard me listening to, they would probably try to like pistol whip me. Splatoon 3's music is also weird, but I think it has a lot more songs that are actually like really solid bangers. I think Splatoon 3 definitely has the best soundtrack out of the Splatoon series. Ocarina of Time, even though it is a little overrated, I think the composing work done in that game is also like extremely top-notch. So I just want to give a small little focus to that too. I like a lot of the sneaking themes in Metal Gear Solid 2 as well. I'm thinking right now of that, I don't know what the instrument is. It might be a saxophone, but they have this like really funky, like, going on with one of the songs in that. I really like that theme. And for what it's worth, the final boss against the whatever his name was, Solidus Snake, I think, is a very good final battle theme as well. That was pretty fucking good. I don't necessarily think that Metal Gear has like my favorite soundtracks so far, but it is very fitting for what's on screen, so they do deserve a little bit of attention for that. GX, I've already talked about my opinions on F-Zero GX's soundtrack, so I don't feel like I need to spend too much time there. But it is good. Unleashed, obviously, it's a Sonic game. Do I need to clarify why Sonic Unleashed is on here? There's Rooftop Run. It's a fucking phenomenal song. Really, most of the level themes, even the nighttime themes, even if I got a little annoyed by the end of the game, I think a lot of the nighttime level themes are very smooth and they're very good as well. And Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, once again, good music. Without actually giving you samples of these games that are on screen right now, it's a little hard to describe why I like these games' soundtrack. But if I were to include each of them to have a song, then we would be here for a very, very long time. So I think that's kind of where we're gonna wrap up for today. That is the conclusion of the Gabe Awards. So overall, as far as our number one games from the top 10 categories, we've got F-Zero GX for Game of the Stream and Xenoblade Chronicles 3, which, were unsurprising to a lot of people, I would say. Let me just run through these real quick in case you missed the earlier parts. You can always check the VODs if you want to see my full thoughts on all these games once again. But overall, this was a very, very good game. Good year for video games for me. I didn't play a ton of releases from this year, but I did play a decent amount, I would say. And of the games that I streamed, it was very hard to make a top 10 list. I think if I did longer than that, we would be here for a very long time, and I'm not sure if my voice could handle talking like at this speed for that long. But, I really do think that out of all of the years of gaming that I've done, this year has had some of my favorite games that I've ever played. And not just the new releases, but a lot of the old stuff that I was playing for the first time. It really, really was an enjoyable year. And you know what? 2023 is just around the corner as well. It makes you wonder, what kind of games were we gonna play next year? Because you know what? I ain't going anywhere. I'm still gonna be here for a little bit anyways, huh? I ain't on my deathbed yet. Well, obviously I can't tell you exactly what is going to come up because if I tell you Bayonetta 2 is going to happen, well, first I would need to stream Bayonetta 1. And I don't know when I would get to those things. But I would be curious to hear what you guys found to be your favorite games from this year. If you want to share them with me, I'll be happy to hear you out, either on the Discord or here, just in general. I like talking about video games, and even if I haven't played a lot of them, it doesn't mean I never will, because this year has definitely proven that. But all right, so with 2023 around the corner, I've got some new plans for the stream as well. Other than just playing video games that I've never played before, there's a lot of projects and stuff I'd like to focus on. So there might be some changes to the streaming schedule frequency. We might go back down to like 4 days a week as opposed to 5. We'll see. But I have a lot of ideas for things. I would like to finally begin work on my Smash Brothers project. And for those who know what I'm talking about, cool. And if you don't, well, I guess you'll learn about it sooner rather than later. But there is something going on with this stream in Smash Brothers. Not just this stream, but also just like content in general for me, right? And then as for like new stuff to the stream, I don't really have a lot to reveal just yet, but I'm sure as time rolls on, I'll be adding new features, new gimmicks. Not really gimmicks, but like hopefully what I would really like to see most out of my stream in 2023. I do have one goal, and I really am hoping to see this stream make it to like an average of about 10 viewers per stream by the end of the year. I think that's my personal goal for the year. It's not a huge goal. Some people would be like, that's it? That's all you want? And I'm genuinely like, yeah. Like, I've got some of my friends who are like, and this is not like me being like, oh, fuck you for this, because I respect the shit out of everyone else's goals too. But for me, I just like to keep things small here, right? And if we get bigger than that, then that's something I'll deal with when we get there, right? But I've definitely got friends who are like, yeah, I wanna get like like 8,000 people. No one has actually ever told me that. Well, that's, you know, someone might have that as their goal, and that's okay too. There's nothing wrong with that. But I just like having a small little group of people that I can talk to. And as long as, you know, someone is watching the stream, that's kind of good enough for me, in all reality. I don't love streaming to an empty room, I'll say that much. So, just to be honest about that. But I'm really happy with where we've come this year. Like, this year, we've already grown more than I really ever expected. So thank you. I'd like to give special shout-outs to the Live Libraries audiences. I don't often directly acknowledge them, but there are a lot of people who have been watching my VODs more than in past years, so thank you. And in general, I'm really looking forward to next year. I've got a lot of personal goals as well. I'd like to make sure I spend more time focusing on myself as just like a personal goal, as a human, like as genuinely, like not trying to meme around here, just like really just spend some time really focusing on things that I need to get accomplished rather than always being concerned with what's happening around me. Just a personal problem of mine that I've had for a while. What is this? GX definitely takes the #1 spot for me. Got yourself a GameCube and F-Zero only a month before you streamed it. Really? Yeah. I live in Europe, so I have trouble catching most of your streams live, so you watch a lot of them as VODs. Well, hey, I'm glad to hear that you're watching the streams and having a good time. I really am glad to hear anyone watches for any reason. Hey, even if you stop by, say hello, and then leave, I really appreciate that a lot, too. Like, genuinely, it means a lot to see people interested in what I do, even if it's nothing like incredibly unique. I've thought before in the past, I'm like, oh, I really gotta focus on coming up with something unique to draw in more attention, and I've decided, like, at one point, in all reality, like, to be completely, like, open and honest, that was something that was, like, something I really was focusing on, to the point where it kind of became like a toxic, like, mindset to myself, where I was just really focused on growth, and then I wouldn't get it, and I would get upset with myself for it. But no more. Next year will be a much better year, where we play Wario video games, and I don't know. You know what? I'll give you some ideas for some games. I don't know when I'm gonna give you these games on stream, because I never really know that until I start streaming them. Some of them are decided by polls, some of them are just decided by me randomly choosing them. But here's what will happen in 2023 at some point on this stream. Bayonetta 1 has to happen, because I need footage from it. I want to play a Final Fantasy. It might be 7, because that Cloud is relevant to my Smash Brothers project. But it could also be 6. It could be... thought maybe a little bit of 9. I've heard a lot of people like Final Fantasy 9. I hear that one's like a little bit of an underrated one. I'm not super sure about like more recent Final Fantasies. Not that I'm against them by any means. I just haven't played them. The only Final Fantasy I've played is 7, the original version. So might see FF7 Remake on this stream in 2023. I mean, I guess for those who are unfamiliar, anything that's in Smash Brothers Ultimate, for my project, I need to at least stream one game before I can really take off on that project from each of those series. So, you know, I have also recently picked up the Capcom Fighting Collection, and I'm going to make an attempt to figure out how to play fighting games. I don't know if I'll be good at that, so don't expect me to be good at that. But it is something on the agenda, at least. Gonna probably start with Street Fighter. Might also do Killer Instinct just to learn how fighting games kind of function more. I've been recommended that one specifically. And obviously King of Fighters and Tekken are games that I will have to cover at some point as well. But I don't actually know if I'll be doing those throughout the year, or if that might just be a more on my own thing, kind of learning how to play those, because I feel like it would be very painful to watch someone play for the very first time. Like, it might be fun as like a one-off, like gamer doesn't know how to game, and then come back to the game 6 months later and then show you that I learned how to play it. I think that could probably be fun or funny, but I wouldn't necessarily stream my process of learning how to play the game quite like I did with F-Zero. Wario Land is definitely going to show up a lot. I am going to play Pizza Tower on this stream when that comes out, and probably Anton Blast as well when that comes out. As well as Wario Land 4 will probably be. So there's going to be a lot of Wario Land likes on stream next year, so you can embrace that. And other than that, I'm not too sure. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to Pizza Tower. I've been really anticipating that game for a while now. So, all right, well, that will conclude the Gabe Awards in full. So thank you once again, everyone, for joining me for this. And we're going to go to a quick AFK. The stream's actually not over. We're going to play a little bit of Pokemon White version, but I really appreciate all the people who stopped by to hear my thoughts about all of the games that I've played this year. And next year, I did want to say this out loud. Next year, I want to get a small category going for like viewers' choice or like community choice, where it's just like maybe like a top 3 of like what people really collectively say that they enjoyed. And you know what? If you want to just participate in gaming discussion, I'm gonna give myself a random shout out that I don't normally do midstream, but I do have a Discord. And another big goal for me in 2023 is actually to see the Discord get a little bit more use out of folks. So I'm gonna try to allow you guys to do more with it. I'm open to suggestions on some things that I could do better with it. But really, I want to see people use the Discord and have like chats and stuff there. I think it could be really fun. I just recently added like the Discord forum things that they recently added, and I'm experimenting with it. I don't know if I'm going to keep that. It seems interesting, but we'll have to see how we feel about it in time. But all right, I'm going to go to a quick AFK, get myself a drink, and we'll come back in a moment. But thank you once again, everyone, and enjoy more of this Pokemon Tunes playlist while I go get those things, and then we're gonna do some Pokemon White. Thank you, everyone.